guess to start out with the good news is we're still playing, and I think that's the most important thing to me. It's great to be playing this week. I told my team, it's part of the dream. You continue to play, and the more you're playing, when it gets lighter out, the better it is. We won the first weekend. Now we got to try to win the second weekend, and the second weekend gets a lot tougher. But if you look at us, first time we've had 7 straight starting lineups, and I think each game we've gotten a little better since we've had the same group in that starting lineup. And when you look at the last 5 games, the 2 tournaments where you played really good teams, we're shooting better from the field, over 50%. I think our defense has been the big thing, and our defense is 38-6 in those 5 games, and which made our rebounding better, which is a +10 compared to a +3 or 4. And I said we had to improve from the free throw line. We are improving in that area. The only area maybe we dipped a little bit is in the turnovers. We're averaging a little over 12, but that's not significant. And we are getting a better rotation with only Appling playing 30 minutes. Everybody else has been under that. But when you get another week of practice, I think it's critical too. Anytime this team can practice or play right now, it benefits us. I think we've got another 3-4 days here. We did take off Sunday. Went Monday, Tuesday. We're going to really taper it down on Wednesday and Thursday, and then be ready to go hopefully on that late night game, which, as I look around the room, some of you will probably be awake for, and some of you probably won't be awake for, not mentioning any names, but just thinking about how it is. I think that's going to be the case. In Virginia, I've gotten a chance to look at a ton of film on him now, and knowing Tony Bennett since I was actually young, because I worked his dad's camps and uncle's camps. I have a great appreciation for what Tony has done. I think they're very worthy of the number 1 seed. When you win the ACC by 2 games and you win both the regular season and the conference tournament, I think that bodes well for you. He's the ACC Coach of the Year. They got guys like that have been on the All-ACC team. They got Mitchell's on the All-Defensive team. They got a 6-man award winner. And Prentice was on the team that the All-Freshman team. So they've gotten it covered in every way you could have it covered. And I think the bottom line for us is this is one of the best defensive teams in the whole country, the best if you look at points per game. They are big. I mean, you start looking at subs and the guards, and it's 6'6", 6'8". And when you start looking, they got one 6'2" guy, and everybody else is 6'5" and bigger. A very big, very physical team, very strong team. Somebody said, looks like a Big Ten team, and I always said of the past, because now it's getting a little wimpier in our league where we don't bump and grind as much, but this is a kind of a bump and grind team, and yet one that in Harris has a phenomenal player, and Brogdon, those 2 guys are very good wing players, and for some reason, the kid Parentis, shooting a phenomenal 48%, I think, from 3, and yet is only averaging 5 points a game, so he really runs their team. Inside, they just keep rotating bodies, and they're big bodies. So I'm excited. I mean, you get a chance to play the number 1 seed. You get a chance to play in New York City, where the tournament hasn't been played in a long, long time. We should be real confident after our performance over Georgetown there, the Garden. We should feel comfortable in there, at least with the showers. And other than that, I'm open for questions. Perfect.
As a head coach, since you've been a head coach for 2 decades now, in what ways do you think you are the same, and in what ways do you think you're different?
I hope I'm the same in 99% of the ways, because, what we've done has been the same, and, I think I've treated most people the same. I think I have a little more experience as far as understanding what it takes to win, but as I do that, the landscape changes too. I mean, it's it I mean, there should be a day of silence if you got the whole North Carolina contingent out of the tournament in the first weekend. So the landscape has changed a little bit. But for the most part, I said it during the year. I think that you still got to win with your defense and your rebounding. The consistency, I mean, why are they the number one seed? A big reason is because of what they do defensively and rebounding the ball. And I haven't changed much in that. I think I've understood that, players are going to be a little different at times, but the bottom line is they want to win too. So I don't know. I don't think I've changed much, but that's for the outside world to figure out.
Tom, this isn't necessarily the last run for your team, but it's the last run for this group and some of these seniors, and you see that a lot around college basketball. How do you balance that pressure between guys like Appling and Payne and other guys who might be leaving, desperately want to finish it off, but yet they don't put too much on themselves?
I've never believed in too much pressure as far as that goes, because when you come here, I mean, that is the ultimate goal, and we make no bones about it when we recruit. We make no bones about it when they get here. Our goal is not to get into the tournament anymore. It's not to make a decent run. Our goal is Final Fours and win championships. And so, maybe as you get to the end, as you say, in their case, and people talk about the record and everything, there's so many variables, and I said it a lot of times. Sometimes it's injuries, sometimes it's a hot team. I mean, there's so many different reasons why you move. Sometimes it might be an official's call or on why you move on or don't. I don't put that pressure on them like you guys are going to be the first team not to do this or to do that. I put the pressure on them, though, that if you're a great college basketball player, you should want to experience a Final Four. You should want to experience a banner hanging from a Big Ten championship or tournament championship or Final Four. I mean, that are the things that last a lifetime. The games and the excitement of playing at this level is great. The rivalries are great. But it's the banners hanging that last more than your lifetime. And so that's the way they've been brought up here. And I don't think Keith and AP feel any more pressure the other way, except I think they want to get to where they want to get, and that's the ultimate goal, and it's been the goal of the program, and it's been their goal. It's the one thing that I think we're all on the same page on all the time, and I think that's the only way I could answer that makes it easier.
This was 23 years ago, Tom, but could you think back to that first round game, 1991, Steve Smith, buzzer beater, Wisconsin Green Bay? I believe it was Tony was playing for them. What you remember from that game and the end of it?
Whew, that's what I remember from it. It was a tough game, and I do remember a lot about it because Green Bay is 95 miles from my home, and so it was. I knew about Green Bay, played against them when they were Division II, and then they moved up. So. I remember that. I remember Tony being a great player. I remember Judd coaching him in one of those Pan American type games. I don't know exactly which one, gold medal games, whatever they were called then. And we've always had great respect. Of course, I had great respect for Dick and his brother, who was a very good NAIA coach in Wisconsin forever. So, this is as home as it gets for me as far as knowing who I'm playing, knowing the style they play. But I don't think it's any advantage because it's not like they're that much different than a lot of Big Ten teams. Ohio State this year is one of the best defensive teams in the country. We've played them. Wisconsin still plays a similar type defense. I think we play a similar type defense. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess it is what it is. I remember Judd. I probably got fired a couple times back then on that bench, so I probably remember that too.
Tom, feel like we've talked several times about Brandon being like the X factor for this team, but I want to ask you about Trice because the other day he steps up and makes that three late, and I asked him if he'd make that shot a couple years ago, and he said I wouldn't even take that shot a couple years ago. So I guess just talk about the difference.
I had some guy nationally ask me if Travis Trice is one of the best six men in the whole tournament, and I would say yes. I think Travis Trice has had a phenomenal year considering a little bit of injuries, but it's been the first year that he's really had a great summer along with a pretty good year of staying healthy, and that's made a big difference in his game. I mean, I think he had as good a summer as anybody on our team. Harris was having an off-the-charts summer too. Those two guys were just having a phenomenal summer, and I think that's made a difference in Travis. But he's confident. He shoots it that way in practice. He's getting better with the ball. He's improved defensively a ton. I think he is a big factor in our success in this tournament, no question. He's dynamite from the free throw line right now. So yeah, I think Travis Trice is, if we could have had those couple of summers to get him bigger and stronger, I think you'd even see more, and so I think it bodes well for the future.
Tom, does the target on your back thing kind of shift a little bit when you go up against a one seed? And if so, do you sell that to your team? I know that Travis said, and a couple of the guys said after I think it was the Harvard game, maybe we lost focus a little bit there when they went on a run. But does this game really eyes wide open and change kind of the dynamic of where your team is mentally?
Well, I could maybe talk to him about it, but when the two presidents, President Obama and President Vitale, pick you, I'm not sure that my guys would believe what I said on that. I think they respect them, and I think they respected Harvard a lot. We got off to a great start. I mean, we really did. I mean, we were scoring at ease early, and I think that's what did it. If you did that against the Celtics, maybe you'd have a little lapse, and then we did lose a little focus. And I think as I watched the film and watched us, I think we got a little tired too. I really do. I think a combination of them playing better, us losing a little focus, maybe the 5 games in 9 days, all those things played a factor in it. But I'm still not going to apologize for that game because I do think they're really good. They had some experience coming back, good players, and well coached. So I'd have to give as much credit to them as I would blame to us. But I don't know if, are we going to be an underdog in this game? I don't, we're not allowed to follow Vegas, so I don't know what we are, and it really doesn't matter because those polls have been blown up. Vegas has been wrong on half their stuff too. But I just look at it as these players should be able to handle both. And when you go a week when everybody in the world picks you, I mean, we made it through that week. There's definitely, I'll bet you more people are picking Virginia the way they played the other night than us. And I don't care either way, to be honest with you. I hope they don't either. I hope they realize and understand. When you get to the Sweet 16, all bars off, I mean, it just doesn't, it doesn't matter. The best team who plays the best is going to win, and that's what we got to do, no matter who's the favorite, who's the underdog, where the bullseye is, who's picking you to win. I mean, I guess the only thing is I don't mind letting down alums, but man, the president, I don't want to let him down. That's a little bigger.
You might get audited if that happens. Just in college basketball today, with so much obsession on who's going pro and who's one and dones and all that, you see also teams with experience and seniors doing pretty well, like you mentioned Harvard and stuff. Do you appreciate even more seniors today than maybe before, and juxtaposed against the obsession with all the young guys going pro?
Well, I don't have a problem with guys leaving early, and I don't have a problem, contrary to popular belief. I don't try to recruit guys that are staying 4 years or 1 year. I mean, I loved Zach Randolph, and I loved, guys, Dede, and I just still, I'm going to say it till I'm done with this profession. I feel sorry for those freshmen and sophomores. I mean, I think there's so much pressure put on them, and I think it's wrong. You know, I think it's wrong what TV's done. I think it's wrong what you guys do. Um, I just do. I understand it, but if Kentucky would have gotten beat, who would have been left? The kid from Arizona who's gotten the least publicity of them all. I mean, is there something to that? I don't know. I know this. It's not as much fun for them, and it's hard, and it's, I guess, part of it, but I'm not sure it's part of it at 18, 19. It might be part of it when they get to be pros. So I do appreciate, I appreciate freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, but I have a great appreciation. Experience is great to have on your side. Guys that have been through the wars, it's great to have that on your side. Guys, it's kind of funny. My two freshmen last night practiced. They both made a mistake, and of course I jumped them, and they said, I just made a mistake. They just don't appreciate that you get maybe a couple more years to make mistakes, but a couple of these guys don't. And I think a senior understands the sense of urgency without panicking over it, but just understands that a couple of free throws, an out of bounds play, a missed cutout make a difference, and it's hard to teach that to freshmen. So it is what it is. I'd like to know when it's all said and done, because this year was probably the onslaught of all onslaughts on those freshmen. And I'm knowing a couple of them. I hope I get a chance to talk to them a year or two from now and ask them how it was and how they felt. And I know what Harris went through a little bit, what he goes through, and that wasn't to the magnitude of the Jabaris of the world. And I just think it's been hard on them, and it's probably hard on the coach, and it's I don't know. I'd like to see that changed, and I think some guys that are very big proponents of college basketball are still some of the guys that are at fault in this thing. We as coaches sometimes, well, that guy's a pro for sure. We all do it, so I'm not just blaming you. I'm blaming all of us. But the problem is the one that loses out is the one that people think is getting the best advantage, and that's the kid. And he's got to live with that. I mean, I got to live with a bullseye in my back now, and I think I'm pretty prepared to handle it most of the time. Although when, if I was to be honest, now that we're a week into it, when those two presidents and everybody else picked us, God, I went to bed that night and wish I had a water bed, because the pressure was heavy on your shoulders or laying there. I can only imagine what it's like for these guys.
I think you tell players sometimes during this tournament, get me to the second game, I'll get you through it. You're looking at your record, obviously it's a lot better in the second game of a weekend than the first game. I mean, is it fair to say that the advantages maybe you have scouting really are minimized when there's this much prep time for both teams, and then they are, I guess, emphasized when you get to that quick turnaround?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I guess the numbers show it. I mean, sometimes it's who you play, and there's a lot of different factors, but I've always thought that our system, it's not me, it's the system we put in back when Brian Gregory and Tom Crane and Stan Heath and everybody was in, and we had the quick turnaround with Princeton, and just the system. And I'm sure a lot of people have good systems, but ours has proven to be pretty doggone good, and so is there a little advantage there? Maybe against certain teams, but the 4 or 5 days to prep, I mean, this was the right thing for us. I mean, I don't know how it'll end up, but going through that 5 games in 9 days and then getting a day off and not playing till Friday is good. I mean, the probably 10-10 start is probably good for us too, because I'm sure most of my guys just start going out then. So it's getting a little harder on me as I get older. Poor Judd, it's a good thing he's on West Coast time. He'll still be setting an alarm clock for that game, but at least he'll be up for it. And I think it's I think it's a good deal for us. It's the best situation we could be in, and I have no complaints about it.
I'm sure there's not a magic answer, but the record at Madison Square Garden, not like you've been playing a bunch of stiffs every time you go there, but is there something about playing there that's been difficult? And should I assume you're not going to be wearing gold jerseys this time around?
I'm not superstitious, same tie, same socks, and it doesn't. I don't get into that. I don't get into. I mean, you're right. I mean, we've played some pretty impressive teams there, and sometimes with maybe not our best team. 2002 when we went there, and I think we lost 2 games, but we lost to Vegas and Syracuse, I think it was. And we beat Kevin Durant there, so I think I'll look on the positive side of things. But didn't play well this year, but it wasn't the arena. It was the team that played us. They played a lot tougher and better, and it was probably the state of mind we were in. I love playing in the Garden. I'm like a player. It is the mecca of everything, and it'll be fun. I got to get a little more help from Gus. That's his home stomping area out there, and Gus got to help me a little bit more deal with it. But definitely, we're not going to win or lose because of what we did 10 years ago in that place, or 5 years ago, or 3 months ago. I don't think anybody is worried about the rims being too hard, or I watched Hoosiers just to make sure that the 15 feet to the rim is the same and the 10 feet. So it's the same. I got that straightened out late last night watching them. So we're all set to go.
Hey, Tom, it was 14 years ago, your last championship year, or your first championship year, I would say.
What a jerk you are. You got to bring up the bad things or what?
14 years ago, for the Sweet 16 game at the Palace against Syracuse, when you had the famous Cleves-Peterson moment where he tried to deposit him into a locker at halftime.
Yeah.
But you were saying that was the moment when you knew that team was taking ownership, and you felt comfortable about it. Were you seeing signs of that in the Harvard game when some of the players were basically saying, "Shut up, coach, we can take care of this"?
Oh, man. Of all people, I don't know who asked who that, but, Costello, I think, said something. And, I will say Zell said chill, because I wasn't chilling, and I wasn't chilling on him, and he changed, So I wouldn't go so far as the players, but I do think they have to take ownership. And as all of you know, I mean, I'd be the first to tell you my huddles are a zoo. And I've always been that way. I've always let them voice their opinion. Travis Walton around here, Cleves, whenever I talk to him, I mean, there were times in those huddles. I'll never forget Antonio Smith. We're playing Kentucky down there. We're down, I think, 21-4 or 19-4 or something. And I called a timeout. I didn't even say one word. I didn't even get a word in, And he wasn't threatening me, which he could have, but he was threatening his buddy Cleves at that point. So it's really good when players hold players accountable. And that night with Cleves, everybody wants to know, did Brandon really do his fist like he did? Did this guy really happen? I mean, I look at the Cleves thing, and I get some people say, did you make that up? And, I wish it could have been there. I wish I could have filmed it, because it was so perfect. And I said nothing. I did nothing. And we went from 14 down to 17 up, and, got credit for such a great halftime speech. And I did zero. And that is when you know your team. And I think our players are getting better. There's a comfort level because they're playing together now. I mean, that was some of the things, Drew, that we really missed with having guys all over the place and nobody having confidence. Keith struggling with that. We laughed the other day because Keith called out a guy in a practice, and we looked at him like, that's not like Keith, and maybe those are little steps that we're starting to take, and that's why each and every day right now, I enjoy that stuff. I like that. I think I've said it. I speak publicly about it. I speak corporately about it. When you have a player-coach team over a coach-coach team, to me it's better. That's demeaning to me, demeaning to coaches. I believed it all my life, and I still believe it. I'm going to do my job. So when I say a player-coach team, they're going to get their advice from me, and they're going to get, I usually point them down a road, but when they take that over, it just, hey, we laugh at players a lot because, John Gruden taught me something on a field in Tampa at a practice one day. He says, I don't want those players in that locker room laughing and talking about me. It was over something that happened on a field. And the players always are in the locker room talking about the coaches. I was my coach. With those players, forget though, and once in a while I remind them, when we have a staff meeting, we're in there talking about them too. It's a two-way street, What they're calling us, we're calling them. That's normal. It's going to happen to Bobby Knight. It's going to, ask Dane about, he wouldn't want to be public with it because he's still scared to death. But, the truth of it is, they talk about us, we talk about them. And when coaches are having those kind of sessions coach to coach, it's good. When players are having those kind of sessions player to player, to me it's good because it means that somebody's speaking up about something, they're passionate about something, they really feel about something, they are taking ownership, and that's why I don't mind when it's an assistant, I don't mind when it's a player, but I really like it when a player is holding a player accountable. I think then you really got something special, yeah. Since we're not having a round table because we got a little too big of people, whatever questions you have, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Tom, it looks like Virginia's kind of like you guys with defense and rebounding. And do you like going up against a team that is similar to yours, or do you like contrasting styles?
That's a good question because, you look at that game, it was Memphis or them, and completely opposites in a lot of ways, and, at this point in time, I still think the biggest strength this program has had for 17 years is we've been able to play different styles. And I've always said that the preseason schedule, when it was off the charts, it wasn't all because of the tough teams. It was because of the different styles, and it helps prepare you. I think the advantage of this conference right now is even better than it was before. When the conference was so good with Bob and Gene and Judd and Clem and all those guys, for the most part, people played similar. It was like the football. You take on what Ohio State and Michigan, you take on 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then all of a sudden, different people come in, and we have some more diverseness, if that's a word, to our conference now. We have pressing teams, we have zone teams, we have man teams. None of us have physical teams as like we used to because it's illegal now. But for the most part, you do have different styles, and then when you go, outside the box and you play a Kentucky or you play a Carolina or you play a Texas, you play more athletic teams, you play bigger teams. All those things help you, and that's what you go back to when you get to the tournament. You always say, well, this team plays something like this. I wanted to say in Virginia, this team plays like the Wisconsin teams, and then I remembered most of these guys were 5 and 6 years old when they were the real fist fights back in 99 and 2000. And so I didn't go quite there, but I did use some examples of teams we've played, and I think in the long run, at least I know how they're going to play, so maybe it's a little more comforting. I think it'll be more of a slugfest because both teams kind of do play a little bit similar, although we run probably more, but they run more than you think. They're a Wisconsin defense of the past, but I think Tony's put his own mark on them offensively, and I think they do a lot more offensively than some of those teams did.
Tom, what do you say or do with Gary to get him to be more aggressive and dominate offensively like he can?
Just had a meeting with him just 5 minutes before I came down here. To say the same thing, how can I help you? You having a great appreciation for kids that are unselfish, and yet, that was one of the great huddles of that weekend too, when Zell came up to me And I was telling Gary, you got to be more aggressive. And Zell looked at me. He says, "Go to him." And I said, "Okay." And me personally, I just love that part of the interaction with players, and that made me feel good and confident. He looked in Gary's eyes, and you could just see it. And Zell's his best friend, so he read him right. And I think Gary does. He has to be. But for the first time, those couple of games, he was in a little bit of foul trouble, which he's never been all year. And so I think he's trying to find his way on that. But he knows he's got to be a little more aggressive, and finding out how to do that is what he's working on. And I think he understood it, and I didn't make a big deal about it, but we both agreed with it. So we agree with you.
Tom, in the locker room after the Harvard game, Keith got emotional talking about he got scared. Down 2 fouls, and he said, and it hit him harder than it's ever hit him. This can be over in a heartbeat. You say you like player coach teams, but experienced coach teams, with him having felt that, can you talk about how maybe of an impact that can have moving forward, please?
Well, I think that is very true. I think Keith Appleby's the toughest guy I got, and I think I hate to use the word scared because that's wimpy, but I think there is some truth to that. I feel a little different sense of urgency. I see when a guy gets his second foul like him, one of the things I'm going to talk to him about this week is how he's got to deal with that and handle it, because I think it is a situation where most seniors got to worry about the last game. This senior class got to worry about the president picking you, the last game, the streak that we have. He's got added pressures that a lot of seniors don't have. And so I don't want to add to those pressures, but I do think Keith Appling is still very valuable. I didn't think he played as well against Harvard because he only played 20 minutes, but I thought against Delaware, even though he scored 5 or 7 points, whatever he scored, he might have played one of his best floor games, defensive games, doing all those things that would go unnoticed. So I'm just going to tell Keith that there's nothing wrong with being nervous. There's something wrong with being scared. Nervous is like preparing for a test, and you go and you're nervous for the test. If you did your work, you're allowed to be nervous. You're not allowed to be scared, not in this program.
I'm wondering how you see the 4-5 matchups in this game. Real athletic 4-man and Mitchell, skilled 5, and then also Gill off the bench for them seems to be a real difference maker.
Well, Gill and Anderson off the bench, I think, are both difference makers for them, and they're both big, 6'6", and built like a linebacker, and Gill is very skilled. And then Nolte comes out of the last game as a sub too, and at 6'7" or 8", and hits those threes. And so they've got some guys. When you look at their stats, it's very deceiving because 12 points is their leading scorer or something. There's no major stats. Then you look at last year's stats, and you realize Harris averaged 16, and I think it was Mitchell averaged 13 or 14. I mean, a lot higher last year than this year for a variety of reasons. But they have some depth. They play their guys pretty much more even minutes. And so if you almost got to look at like the NBA, you got to look at points per minute, rebounds per minute to get a better feel for what this team does. And so we've done that, and it's probably a deeper team than ours as far as the ability to score the ball in that. But the nice thing about the tournament, if you don't get in foul trouble, I think you get enough time to rest, especially that first night where you've had some time here. And I don't think that's going to be a factor. But I do think that those 2 subs, Anderson and Gill, are very big parts of this whole thing. Well, I think they match up pretty well at the start. Even though Mitchell's a little bigger, Dawson's strong enough. He can handle that. And, I think in Payne's case, I'm hoping there's a little advantage for us there. So I do think we match up pretty well. Their wings are a little bigger than ours. Point guards are both the same. It's a pretty good matchup. When they start subbing, they're subbing 6'6", 6'8" guys in there that are almost perimeter players. talking to Brian Gregory a little bit, I said, my God, it's just a team that keeps getting bigger. And they play a lot with Gill in there, who's not as big as their center, who's 6'11", but then they're pretty strong and athletic. So I'd say strength and a better athletes than maybe you think they are, just because they're not running up and down the court like some fast break teams.
Tom, how are you coaching to the foul issue this week? And if it's going to be as physical as you think, are the scout guys on high alert?
Lent's not up yet, my man. I think what I'm emphasizing, to be very honest with you, is doing a better job on the shot. Drives, I think Kraft's the only one that can get away with slapping down at the ball. Gary's trying to do that, and I think we just got to get our hands up. We can't be fouling the shooters when they're not in the bonus. That's like a double problem, If they're not in the bonus and you foul a guy and he takes it out of bounds, so be it. But he's not in the bonus and then you're fouling him and he gets shots. Now it's like a double problem. It's like they're in the bonus the whole time. We've done a little bit of that. We fouled the three-point shooter a couple times. Those kind of things are unexcusable that we're trying to talk to, work at, show film to try to improve in that area. But some of the other things just is what it is.
At this point in time, after winning 5 straight and getting ready to go back to the Sweet 16 again, what worries you the most?
What a deep question. Yeah. Yeah, I noticed you did. What worries me the most, I guess, would be the foul situations worry me the most, because I think they've changed some games. And it might be the same for the opposition. I don't realize it, but when I got Appling or Harris or Payne sitting next to me for extended periods of time, especially in that first half, you get some leads and then things happen. That probably worries me the most, and that's what's hurt us the most. What's hurt us is because you don't have a rotation pattern, and then all of a sudden you're starting guys, and then all of a sudden they're back to subs. Usually your subs come in and got to maintain and hopefully build a little bit. But some of our subs have been starters a lot, which is a plus, but then they think they got to do that, and we're taking a few bad shots or making a few errant plays instead of just being solid. I think they want to impress by doing more, and really a lot of times they can impress by doing less. So those are the things we're trying to talk to them about, and when I constantly say that we're not where we were, these are the reasons I say that. Those things aren't as smooth as they should be by this time of year on most teams that I've coached, especially to this depth in the tournament.
Tom, you mentioned a couple times the presidents that have picked you and all the attention and focus. Do you think your team likes that, embraces that, ignores it, is bothered by it? How do you think you guys have handled it?
Well, I tried to address it the first night, and I tried to address it as what a privilege, what an honor, and I really do mean that. I mean, nobody wants to have egg on their face. I mean, the president's like the head coach. I mean, he's always going to have it on his face but you writers, media people don't want to have egg on their face. Drew never wants to have egg on his face. So you don't want to pick wrong. And I think they made educated picks, what they thought, what they saw, so I think that's a privilege. Do I think we're any better than any other team? No. Do I think that we have just as good a chance to move on as any team in this tournament? Yes. But I don't think we're, and I always say somebody's got to be picked. Was I surprised? Yes, on the number of people. But I told them, you can embrace it. That's probably not good. You can panic over it. That's probably not good. I think you got to deal with it and what it is. And that's that the program, you players, what you did at the beginning of the year, how you hung in there through the middle of the year, what you did at the end of the year, put you in a position where people think highly of you, and I think that's great. I really haven't felt the pressure of it, other than, again, the president's a little different thing, number one, but number two, the number of people that picked us on TV was a little surprising. And it, you know, what I worry more about is how much ammunition does that give your opponent? You know, I think what this team has been through this year, and the ups and downs, and the put a fork in you and praise you, and all the things they've been through, I think they can handle it. And I thought we did a pretty good job handling it. But how much does it motivate another team? That I don't know. I don't know about the opposition. But I still will go with this. If you get picked to be the best, it's a lot more fun to try to prove people right than prove people wrong, in my estimation now. Back 15 years ago, I wanted to prove everybody wrong. Now I kind of look at it the other way. I'd like to prove everybody right, and I'm more embracing that than I am panicking over it. No TV questions. What's going on back there in the back row? You guys fell asleep.
All right, another Bennett question. So you mentioned it earlier, the defense. Are they essentially exactly what we saw with Dick Bennett in Wisconsin defensively back in the day? And then how, maybe a little more on how they're different offensively, what he's done differently than his dad?
Well, they're not exactly like Dick, and I love Dick. I mean, he's great. But honest to God, I mean, I said this on TV yesterday. With Dick, I never complained about a foul until the guy's legs came off the floor as he was holding on to our guys as they were running through. I mean, it was a physical. His teams were so good that way, and they were so disciplined. I mean, I think it's a different era. I think he's just taken a lot of the same principles. They're solid. They don't take chances. They're physical from what you can do nowadays. They help each other. They move together. You can call it pack. You can call it whatever you want. I think it's like more teams are playing now, but his guys are, and they're big, so they're long, and they're very good at staying disciplined. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They're going to play to their system. I saw where Dick didn't go to the game. He was back in the hotel, and I feel bad because he should enjoy this, because his son is a protege of him, and he did it the right way. And, to the day I die, of all the accomplishments I think we've had, beating Wisconsin that year 4 times will probably always rank as one of the top. And I remember walking off that semifinal halftime, 1917 or 9-8, whatever it was, and Kevin O'Neill, my buddy, was doing TV for somebody because he was out of the tournament, and he looked at me like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "Nothing," and they were a lot more patient offensively probably than Tony's teams, but both really, 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 really good coaches, and one at different levels, and that's what I've always appreciated about both guys, and I have great respect for both. No, I don't, for a variety of reasons. But I don't think Stephen will do that. I don't know what he'll do, but it probably won't be that. He does get on the officials, He ticked me off, too, when he pulled up his shoe and he, telling Harvard the slipper isn't fit, and I said, no. I said, last thing I need is a smart aleck kid, but I probably got one. It's his mother's fault, so what can I say?